welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing another podcast. My podcast is going to be taking over for a little bit until the season finale of Lovecraft Country. So on my podcast I'm just going to be talking about the episodes more in depth and just what I got from the episode and stuff like that. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Jade. Like I said, today we're going to be talking about Lovecraft Country, and then this episode we're going to be talking about episode 1 called Sundown, and this show came out around 4 weeks ago. I am a little behind, but I just started watching it recently, but I just want to talk about the different things that I saw in the show and what I got from it and what I think was important of the episode, I guess. This is a spoiler, a warning for now, because I'm going to be talking about the show in depth and everything like that. So if you have not watched the show, make sure you go out and watch it. It is very good, and it's on HBO Max. So without further ado, let's get started. So like I said, the first episode was called Sundown. In the beginning of the episode, we get a scene of this black and white, I guess, war kind of scene, and then like it goes into like colorful atmosphere and aliens and all this weird stuff happening. Like I had no idea what was happening when I first watched this show, and then all of a sudden Cthulhu came out of nowhere, which is like an ancient like god kind of thing, and Jackie Robinson, the baseball player, killed it and stuff. So I just was so confused what was happening in this show, and then all of a sudden a UFO comes out of nowhere, and this lady came out and she was like red, and like she was talking to this guy, and then all of a sudden he woke up and we are in the stage of where we are, and it's around 1950s to 1960s in Chicago, in the United States, and we're introduced to our first character, Atticus, but his nickname is Tik in the show, and basically it was just showing where they are in the world, and during that time there was segregation, so it like panned away from the bus, and he was in the back of the bus, and there was a sign that said "Color Folk" in the back. So we are in the middle of segregation, and I guess his dream was kind of an escape in a way. Like he was reading this like mystery book or like scientific book, so that's probably why he had a dream like that. It was really interesting to go from that like crazy futuristic scene back to reality of the 50s and 60s during segregation. So I just want to talk about the characters that were introduced in this episode. Like I said, first one was Atticus and Tik, and then we are introduced to his uncle George, his wife, I forgot her name, and then their daughter Dee or something with a D. I don't know, I forgot. But we're introduced to those characters, and it's the show told us that George is a green book writer, and if you don't know what a green book is, it's basically a travel guide for black people back in the day. It's basically tells you different restaurants, areas, different places you can sleep that are friendly to black people, because especially in the South, a lot of places were not friendly at all. Like if you were caught there, especially like the episode says, after sundown, you were probably hanged or killed in that city that you were in, because it was very bad for black people just to be anywhere during segregation. So just looking at it, it's kind of sad like that there was a need for this kind of book for people to travel safely around the country, in their own country where they were born. So it definitely gives you a perspective of how life was for people in that time. Another character that were introduced but a little later, her name is Letty. She is just a friend of Tik's. They went to high school together, and she just like came back in town to find her sister, who was like singing at this like party in their neighborhood, and basically was just like not asking for money, but her sister was like, well, what do you need? You need money or whatever, or like a place to stay, whatever. So we kind of get a gist that Letty isn't really close to her family, and she's basically like a traveler in her own way. Like she doesn't really have a good relationship, because after her sister mentioned you never came to our mom's funeral, kind of like gave me a perspective of like she's not very close to her family the way that George and his wife and like Tik and all of them are close together. So Atticus, he is a war veteran, and he came home because he needed to find his dad, Montrose, who went missing, and he's been missing for a couple weeks, and they have no idea where he was or anything like that. And Atticus like has a letter that was written by his dad, basically saying, I'm in Artem, you can find me here, I know more about your mother and stuff like that. So Tik's mom died. They didn't really say when, but probably not just for his father, but he's trying to probably figure out what happened to his mom and like who his mom's family is. So Tik, Letty, and George all take a road trip to Artem to try to find his father, and it's like literally in the middle of nowhere. But on the road, they encounter some not so good people. They like go to this one restaurant, and George got a tip that it was a friendly place for black people, and like as soon as they sat down, and like you could just tell in the background that they were not welcome there. Like people were giving them mean looks, dogs were like savagely barking at them and all this kind of stuff, and they were actually run out of town by the white folk there because they had guns and cars, and they were after them, probably trying to kill them. And then like when they're driving away, this like mysterious car that we kept seeing pop up a little bit in the show or in the episode like stopped the car, but they didn't like run into their car. They like hit like this kind of force field or something, and the people who were chasing Atticus, George, and Letty flew over the car, and I'm pretty sure they all died because it was like a bad crash. And then they like turned around to see basically who saved their life, and it ended up being a white woman that came out of the car, and she was like staring Tik down. So whoever this lady is, like she's been after Tik, because everywhere Tik's really was in the show, she was there. So whoever this lady is, she wants something to do with Tik. And while they're continuing their journey to Artem, they stop in this area where like there was a pathway that's supposed to lead to Artem, but they literally could not find it. So they were just driving all over this forest trying to find this road, because like I said, it's in the middle of a road, so it's like somewhere deep between them. But before they got there, they stopped at Lady's brother's house because she was gonna stay with him, because I think her sister kind of kicked her out in a way. And the brother like told them about people disappearing in the forest, and not only do you have to worry about people disappearing, but their sheriff is horrible in that town. It's like you just want to watch out for the guy. But Letty and her brother ended up fighting over the mom's funeral situation as well, so Letty continued the journey with them. And when they got to the forest, here comes the sheriff that the brother warned them about. So now we're back into reality of the world that they're living in, of, you know, just like not everyone was bad, but a lot of people back then liked segregation, and they wanted to keep people oppressed, and they killed people a lot. The sheriff basically told them like, this is sundown, whatever, like this is Sundown County, so it's not just this town, but this whole area is sundown. He basically told them, like he told them to their face, if I caught you guys peeing in the forest like animals, I would have had to hang you for it. So it's like that's the kind of stuff that they were dealing with on a daily basis, and they were like challenging the sheriff, basically saying like, well, it's not sundown yet, like we still have time. And the sheriff kept saying, well, you only have like 7 minutes, so you know you gotta go now, but if you speed, I'll pull you over. And he asked him if he can make a U-turn there, because obviously if he made an illegal U-turn, he would have got pulled over and killed. And the guy was like, oh, you think you're smart, blah blah blah. And he was just messing around with this guy, and like, but like back then, like it's your life, like your life depended on how you interacted with certain people, especially a sheriff. Like they have authority over you no matter what. So they're leaving, trying to get out of this county before the sun went down, and like it was so nerve-wracking because the police officer was right behind him. He kept bumping the car, and your heart was just racing, like, are they gonna make it? Like, are they gonna make it over the line? And they finally like made it over the line with like a couple seconds to spare. And then when they were on their way, there was like 4 other police cars in the other county waiting for them. So he called his friends to come block the road, and they took Atticus, George, and Letty into the middle of the forest at nighttime, and they were like interrogating them about robberies that happened, and they were just saying, well, you know, you guys are gonna tell me that you did this, blah blah blah, so like you could justify their hanging or whatever, but there's like no proof that it was them because they literally just got there. So how would they commit a robbery if they just got to town? They know their truth, but they're like messing with them, about to kill them, and they just hear some strange noises in the forest, and like it sounds like chirping in a way, and then all of a sudden some big old monster comes over and rips one of the arms off of the deputies or cop, whatever their title was. And then like these giant monsters with eyes all over their bodies started attacking everyone. So George and Letty and Atticus like run, trying to get out of there, and they're like trying to get away from these monsters, and the monsters end up killing like all of the sheriffs and stuff, except for like the main sheriff they interacted with first, and then one other guy that was there. They like were in the middle of a cabin, and the sheriff like got his arm like bitten, but it wasn't bitten off, but like had a huge chunk out of his shoulder, and then he started changing into the monster. So not only were they monsters, they were like vampire monsters, because the guy got bit by one of them and he turned into one of them. So that guy ended up killing the other sheriff, or the other guy, and they were like trying to get out of there, and Letty had to like go get the car because that's their only escape out. So after she came back, they were defending themselves, surrounded by these monsters. There was like probably 10 of them out there trying to get them, and then all of a sudden you hear a whistle in the woods, and then the monsters turn to look at it and they walk away. So we're just like, what is happening? Like, why did they kill these people? You know, they could have killed them, like, and they didn't. Like, there was close, so they could have, but they never killed any of the main characters. They just killed like the sheriffs and stuff. So then they like wait until morning because they figured this is dark, like we don't want to go back in the woods with these things. So they wait in the cabin until morning. They found Artem, and they found like this massive mansion in the middle of nowhere, and he went up to the door. They're covered in blood from these monsters, and before he even could knock on the door, this white man opens the door and he's like, "Hi Atticus, like we've been waiting for you." And then the episode ends. So it was crazy. Like, it was scientific and then like really realistic, and then it went to like some strange stuff like who were these people and stuff like that. So I don't know, I thought it was a really good episode. Like, it definitely was something I've never really seen before, with all the crazy stuff that was happening. But my main takeaway from this episode was just thinking about like the people that actually lived through this time. But I guess my number one question for this episode was if they went over there and they didn't have to like get interrupted by the sheriff, would they have found Artem, or would they have been killed by the monsters? Because if they were out there in the woods, like, I feel like they would have been killed. But if the family wanted them, I feel like they would have protected them against the monsters. But how, like, did they see it? Like, it only appeared after it was dark and after the road, like the path came up. So if it wasn't for, you know, the sheriff and stuff, like, where would they have gone? Would they have given up and just gone somewhere else and like something happened? So I guess that's like my main question, like what would have happened if they didn't see this? And like, they're excited to talk about the next episode. So I'm just gonna be talking about the episodes. But the next episode, we just got a glimpse of what they're gonna be doing in Artem and what these people are. So we'll see what happens in episode 2 of Lovecraft Country. But thank you guys for listening. I enjoy talking about this. And like I said, definitely go watch this show. The first episode is free on YouTube right now. So just look up Sundown by Lovecraft Country, and I'm pretty sure HBO Max is the one that released it, so you can see the first episode for free on YouTube. So make sure you check that out, and I'll put a link down there for you guys to view it. All right, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.